Hi and welcome to Module 103 of the Information Lab and Data Skills Tableau Data Skills Training course. My name is Will Sutton and I'm super excited to have you all here. We're going to be learning so much today. In this module you'll learn about Tableau dashboards and we're going to cover building a dashboard in Tableau, exploring different dashboard layouts and really adding in that interactivity which spice up your dashboards. You can watch this module as a standalone training or as part of the Tableau Data Skills series. If you find this training useful and would like us to help you and your team make sense of business data, please reach out to us at info@theinformationlab.co.uk. Check out all those links in the description for the module's training materials and also all those extra useful links I've gone and added in there as well to help level up your data skills. Remember to hit that subscribe button to be the first to know about when we've got new videos coming out. Okay, let's jump into this and get started.
Hey folks, you join me now in Tableau. We've opened up that starter workbook, starter tab 103, rat sightings. And rat sighting is the data we're going to be exploring here all around New York. So we'll be understanding types of buildings, what the authorities are doing about all these rats. So what we've done is we built some charts here, some typical sheets you would build in Tableau to explore some of this data. So here we have a bar chart of rat signs by different boroughs around New York, about by location types, different buildings they've been to, family homes, what the investigations are looking like. So we've got a little status of how things are going on the investigations. And then we have a little map of different locations that rats have been sighted, pinned to a little city. And these are nice exploratory views. But the trouble is we've got to go back and forth between all these different tabs and kind of breaks our own understanding of what's going on. What would be really good is if we could see everything in one place. This is where dashboards come in very helpfully. So along the tabs that you have here, which is plus the new worksheet, you can have the next one along in the middle, a new dashboard. If you click that, you'll be opened up into a window like this. So a dashboard allows you to collect different sheets and different objects together in one place to give your viewer all the data on screen at one time. And adding sheets is super easy. So we've got all those sheets there. We can see them here on the left hand side. We get a little preview window of each of those charts. And I can just go and drag and drop those in just like that. I can drag more in. You can see here there's a sort of grey outline of where the chart will go. So I can put that one in there. Let's just build all these up. Just bring them all in here as well. Okay, so we've put all these dashboards on and they've kind of formed this like tile format. They've all kind of met their own little corner here and there. But what happens, say, if I wanted to say float one of these tiles compared to the other? So if I have this, say this pie chart here, if I go over to more options on the right, so I can go down here and pick the option for floating. Click that. You can see that the map below has expanded to fill that view, but this dashboard now I can just freely put anywhere I like. I can even hover it sort of slightly off the dashboard itself if I really wanted to. But this gives me a bit more freedom, flexibility if you prefer to float your objects. If you've been using, say, a tool like Power BI, you'll natively be floating everything, but here in Tableau you have the option to tile things as well. Okay, so I've got my floating object. I want to convert it back. If I go, I can unclick floating there and it will return to the tile there. And if I wanted, I can move it back to there. Alternatively, if I wanted to float that pie chart on here, I would go over to the bottom here, click floating, bottom here, and then drag this on here like that. Also, if I wasn't sure if I had it tiled, I could then also hold down Shift, and you can see that that grey box changes. Now I can float that object. Similarly, if I had this floating and then I hit Shift, I can then put it back to tiled. I have a note: things like this legend and these have not are still being floated. I'd have to press Shift on them to get them to pop back into place. Okay, so that's a little bit on adding different sheets, but we've got a dashboard here of kind of a fixed size at the moment. So by default, it'll come to this desktop browser size. So 1000 by 800, but you can see here there's a lot of different sizes as well as a custom size as well. Alternatively, you may not want to fix the size. You may do automatic, which will sort of scale the content depending on the screen size that your viewer is looking from. So this may do some behaviors that you don't particularly want. This is why we typically recommend for a fixed size, so you know that all what you see, what you produce is what your viewers are going to see as well. There's one last one here, sort of a range of size, so it will do the same automatic, but only between certain size ranges that you can set. Okay, I do want to mention one benefit of automatic. If you click automatic, obviously it fills the screen. If you then go and click back to fixed size, you'll get the exact size for your screen. So we're going to stick with that today. I'm going to stick with my screen size here. If you're having issues with this, you can always take this dashboard, change it to automatic, then change it to fixed. So I want to bring your attention to these options on the top left. So default here, this is the default view that most people will see, but you can add in other devices for special needs. Say you want to design a mobile dashboard. By default, Tableau gives you a phone layout, which you can have a take a look. Typically, it sort of tries to put all the content you've put into that wider dashboard into this kind of view. Sometimes it doesn't always get it in the way you want it to. You can go and change that. If you hit this unlock button, you can go and change the options here. Say I actually realize I don't want to have the map this far down. I can go and change things there. What you'll see here is then this custom layout will appear for your phone layout. So you can then go and change what your mobile user will see. So this is quite handy because sometimes you'll have charts that work well on a desktop that say don't convert too well on a mobile, and conversely other things. So you can customize your layouts depending on what your user is going to be viewing your dashboard using, which I think is a great little feature. For this dashboard, I know we're not going to be using our phones to go and view this dashboard. People are only going to be using this on the desktop. So what I can do here is I can go and delete this layout. Okay, so this will be the default view for everybody, regardless of what device they're coming in on. They'll see this sort of consistent view. I will also mention on those devices that you do have a device preview, so you can take a look about which different. So if I click this button, I will then see all these different device type views. I can scroll through these. So I can see what the layout would look like. So Tableau here is going to trace me this sort of grey boundary that would be for my tablet, for my phone layouts. So it's a nice way of understanding what your user will see on that screen for a different device. Okay, if we wanted, then we can then go and add back in that phone layout there, and then we can start customizing, designing a layout just for that. But as we mentioned, we're not interested in that. We're just interested in the default view here. Okay, still on our left-hand panel, we have an option down here for different objects. So if you want to bring, say, containers, we'll come onto those later, but say text, I want to bring in some text here. Like I want to go and explain something that's going on with my pie chart. I can then go and float that object in there. And I'll get an option here to add some text. I can then go and add that there. These next features are more sort of the advanced features you can bring in from Tableau. Things like extensions to try and bring in new functionality to your workbook. Ask data, where you can go and ask your questions to Tableau and it will bring you back a chart. All these data stories where they'll go and create a sort of generated output of a description of what the data is telling you. We also have images. If you want to bring any sort of logos in here, these are a great way to do that. Blank sheets, super helpful for padding out different layouts. Say if I wanted to put a bit of space between these two charts, I can bring in a sheet there, a blank sheet there. Workflows is another version of an extension that you can bring in to go and run different workflows. Web pages can be quite nice to go and get, say, specific URL. If you want, say, a news site on here, you can bring that in too. Navigation allows you to switch between different dashboards. Download will allow you to download different content as a special button here, and you can edit that to go and download, say, a different, like an image of your dashboard, PowerPoint, crosstab of the data. Really helpful. You can give these titles as a text button, or you can go and bring in your own custom image for like a download button, which I think is really nice. Okay, and lastly, what we can do on this left hand side is go and add in a dashboard title. So if I click that button, the title will be the same as what the dashboard is called. So dashboard 1 in this case. If you're a bit better at naming things like than I am, then you will have your dashboard title come up there. But no matter, I can click into this and I can change this for something more descriptive than dashboard 1. Okay, so now we're going to look at the layout tab. So if you change from dashboard to layout, you'll see all these options here. So first we're met with the coordinates. So if you click on a sheet, you'll see what position, XY positions, coordinates they are, how wide it is, how high it is. These can be really helpful for getting very specific about the dimensions of your charts, especially when it comes to floating objects. So my floating object here, I now have the option to go and change the XY position. So I can use these options to help me bring this floating object much closer to, say, my pie chart in this case. Rather than having to guesstimate by dragging it, I can then use these to really hone in. With these, I also have the option here to add borders if I wanted to. If I wanted to bring some highlight, bring some attention to this text box. Similarly, I can go and add in background colors if I wanted to really bring some attention to this. I don't in this case, so none is also a good option. So typically I will put all my dashboards backgrounds to none. This means there's no color at all. If I want to color in the dashboard, I'll generally color in the whole thing. So what I would do is click the far outer bit. This will get you all of the dashboard. Here I can go and change that background color. So if I wanted, say, like a darker looking background, I could do this. Obviously now we've still got some issues. These sheets are still showing backgrounds as white, despite this being background none. What you would do in these cases is go over to Format for your dashboard, and then this Fill button here, change that to none. Obviously you also need to go and change all the text around so that's on a much lighter shade so it stands out more than this. Okay, what I want to do rather than just change the background colors of my dashboard is actually go and change the padding. So padding here will increase the amount of breathing space that your charts have. So I can go and increase this padding. The default is 8 here. I feel it should be a bit higher. So if you say up this padding from say 8 to 20, I feel it looks a little bit nicer. It has a little bit more breathing space to it. One thing I want to draw your attention to is this item hierarchy here. Just go and increase the size here. So item hierarchy here is showing all the elements of your dashboard in one place. All floating objects come to the top here. So this is our sum text. If I click that, I will highlight that text box. For our tiled, I will get the entire dashboard. But here I have the options. So this arrow here, if I unclick this, I can then start seeing what's in this tiled container. And what I find will be a vertical container, which is this. Looking in there, I can see this is our title, and then there's another horizontal container. In that is another tiled, and then all these different sheets are in here as well. Let's expand this out. Okay, so I've got all my sheets here. I can click these. I can see all my different sheets nicely populated there. What you will find is when Tableau builds out your visualization, it will add in a lot of containers by default. Say if you want to get rid of one, I'm not sure what this horizontal container is doing. So I'm going to go right click and go remove container. As you can see, nothing's really changed in my dashboard. Okay, let's go and learn a little bit more about these layout containers. So if we jump back over to dashboard, remember in our objects we had these at the top. These are horizontal and vertical containers. So our horizontal containers will lay out different content horizontally, and vertical containers will do the same but vertically. So these are like sheets, you can just drag them onto your visualization, but you've got to sort of understand where on the grid they're going to go. You can sort of see that grey shape coming in. So when you're thinking about laying out content, you generally want your important sort of simple things to understand here to then build into more detail later on. Okay, so let's go and lay this content out. So I've got my horizontal container. I'm going to bring that in here. So where you see this sort of dotted line, that means it's going to go in there in that vertical container. I'm going to put that there. So it's gone and expanded, filled a lot of space there. Notice how everything's been brought down, but my floating object here has stayed in the same place. So that's like a good piece of advice if you're mixing tiled and floating objects. Remember to do the floating objects right at the end. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time redistributing where that floating object should be. Okay, so I've brought in this horizontal container. If I go back over to the layout pane, I can then see that in here in my layout. So for my layout, what I want to see those rat sightings by Baba. That's quite important to me. So I also want to see this investigation status. So I want to see this next to this bar chart. If I drag this, you'll see that little grey line come up there. Similarly, if I want to do it on the left side there. So this means it's going to put this chart next to the other one in this container. If you see, if you go too far, it's going to try and put the whole chart there. So you want to try and get it to that position there. So put that in there. Okay. So what's happened is the container has compressed to a very small space. You can fix this. If you click on your item hierarchy, you can then drag this open a bit more. And yes, we get our charts coming back. Now you can notice the size difference. Tableau's really given all the space to this bar chart and very little over here to our pie chart. But what we can do here, so if you go and click your container, under your more options here, what you can go is press this button, distribute contents evenly, which will automatically give it each space equal share. This can be really helpful if you have, say, many objects. Say you have 5 charts you want to show across here. That can be super helpful, massive time saver too. Okay, so I've got my horizontal container in there. That's looking quite nice. What I want to do is bring this other content in here. So I can do, again, like another horizontal container here, put those two in there. But in this case, I want to show you is a vertical container. So if I bring a vertical container here, what I'm going to do is put it in this horizontal container here. Okay, so back on our layout pane, we can see that container is there. What I want to do with this container is stack 2 charts on top of each other, and then I'm going to add another container to stack another 2 charts on each other. So to do this, I would again just go and drag in, say, a chart that I wanted to show here. It's gone in that container. What I also want is this bar chart layout wise to stand on top of that one. So I'm going to drag that. You see the blue outline indicates this container, that grey highlight indicates where that chart will go. Click that, and you can see that's been added to my vertical container there. Again, the size is a bit mad at the moment, but we'll fix that later. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to go and take my vertical container and then put my map underneath my pie chart. Got my vertical container again. You can see that there. I'm going to bring my map, put that in there. Bring this pie chart, bring that up there. You can see the blue line that's working. Now I have all this other stuff at the bottom here. This tile container here. That's, what is it? There's a blank sheet. There's this legend for the pie chart. There's also like a count. Not really very helpful to us. It doesn't matter. You can get rid of these. Yes, I'm happy to delete this. Now, why hasn't my container filled out properly? So it's because this container here is fixed size. You know how we dragged it down a little bit? We fixed the size there. So there's an option here to fix your heights. If you unclick this, it will now expand to fill that room. So over here, I'm quite happy with this. This looks good. This looks quite nice, sort of use of space. Over here, you find this that pie charts tend to get a bit crushed by Tableau, so they may need a bit more help. If I go and drag this line down here, I will see this black arrow. If I go to this and unclick, that's going to level my pie chart to the same height as my bar chart. But you can see over here in our item hierarchy, we now gained this tiled container here, which is these two. This was our vertical container. But what Tableau's done is it's going to put these two in their own containers. So this is now a vertical container, and so is this. Personally, I don't want this. I want to be able to have everything nice in as few containers as possible. So what I'm going to do is undo this. And how I can work this is I see the height here. I know this is 316. What I can do is go over here and go to on my more options on my pie charts and go edit height and change that to 316. Okay, so now that's the same height as this chart. Okay, why do I keep going on about containers? Well, it's because we've got all this extra functionality that have now come in for Tableau to what you can do with containers. So if I click my vertical container, what I want to show you is show and hide containers. So if you go into more options and go add show hide button, click that, you'll get this little X pop up. This is like a floating object, so you can put this anywhere. Similarly, remember, if you press shift, you can go and put that in a container. So how this works is if I go and press Alt and click, I can go and hide this. And that will then allow all the other content to expand and fill that space. Okay. It's quite nice little functionality depending on what you want to use. Okay. So this allows me to change how much content is on screen at any given moment. A further example of this, say if I got rid of this one, go and bring in another container, say another vertical container, put that in my other vertical container, and I'm going to go and put my pie chart in here. What I can do back on this container, I can go add show hide button, and then go alt click, and that will allow my map to expand up to have more of that space, which might be a nice way of, say, hiding that chart or having an option to show a chart if a user wanted to see that. If you are interested in seeing how you can change the look and view of your dashboard depending on how your user interacts with it, this option here under layout for control visibility using value. So this is around all the new functionality around dynamic zone visibility. So what this allows you to do, so the benefit of this is now that you could show and hide this container depending on a parameter which could be set by some other part of your dashboard. It wouldn't require users to specifically click on, say, that X. They could then go and say click an option to filter a dashboard that would then change which charts are being shown, which is really cool functionality when you think about it. Okay, I've got my pie chart here, but I'm actually really missing the legend on this. So if I have this pie chart, if you go under more options here, this gives you so many other options of things, say you've lost along the way. Say I want to bring back in that legend, that color legend, because I don't know what these colors mean. So I go click that, that will come in. You can see Tableau's gone and put this on my dashboard as a vertical container. So I can click that, I can see that there, I can see those statuses. What I can do here is I can just go, if I go pick this up, I can then go and drag this next to my pie chart. Again, Tableau's gone and made it really squished. So what Tableau's done is it's gone and made a horizontal container here. What we need to do is again go and up that size of that height to 316 to be in line with our other chart. And we can expand the size a little bit more. Okay, our dashboard's coming together. But I want that extra level of detail. I want to be able to interact with this to go and filter and understand the data a bit further. say for example, I'm really interested why Brooklyn is so high. If I click this, I want to be able to explore this data a bit further. So what I can do here is utilize some dashboard actions to filter the other charts in my view. Okay, so I've got Brooklyn here. If I go over to my dashboard and then go actions, these will allow you to set relationships between different objects in your dashboard. So what I would do in this case, go add action. In this case, I'll come up to filter. So on your filter action page, you're presented with two little drop down menus. This will just, the source sheets that will say what are you going to click to then drive an action in your target here. So in this case, I want to click on that right sightings in Brooklyn. So if I go and untick the other ones here, I've just got that sheet selected. I then wanted to update every other chart. So if I untick this here, so then Tableau gives you these other options here. So you have options of how the action will run, either by a menu option, either by selecting, just clicking the bar, or by hovering over that data point will drive an action. In this case, I'm going to click select. So this other option about clearing the selection will keep values filtered, show all values, exclude all values. This just happens to be, so say if I wanted to unclick Brooklyn, what will happen to the charts? Will they stay the same or will they return to all values? So I want them to return to all values in most cases. So I'm going to click show all values. This last section allows you to pick the fields that are going to be filtered when you click filter. So in this case, I'm going to click my selected field. I want to have those boroughs. So if I go for borough, pick that, and that will then target on borough in all those other in the same data source. I click OK, and then I click OK again. Okay, so I come to my charts, I click Brooklyn. You can see those data points update there. So I saw a pie chart update, our map got a lot smaller, a lot fewer data points on that map, and our bar chart updated as well. So this allows me to go and explore these different charts, different data points here to try and understand what's going on with our data. So you saw there when I was clicking on that map, it wasn't particularly helpful for me to go and filter out every other data point there. What I want to do is actually, maybe I want to keep all those other values there just in context. So one way I can keep all these data points here is if I remove the sheet from the action, but maybe I want to say highlight that point. So I'm going to use a highlight action just to bring some attention to that city. So I go back to dashboards and actions. I've got my filter here. I'm going to go edit this. So I don't want our map in there. If I click OK, okay, we can now see that when I click around that map doesn't change, which is nice. Okay, but if I go back into dashboard actions, I then can go and add highlight. Okay, so I want to go and pick my boroughs. One quick tip: if you do Control A and click, you'll untick everything. If you then go back and click that one, that will work. Again, I'll go Control A, unclick, and then tick there. So typically, highlight actions you can run on select. I prefer to have them on hover. It seems quite a natural thing to hover and see that point highlighted. Okay, so I'm going to go and select my field. I'm going to go and select borough. Okay. So when I scroll over this, you can sort of see all the points get grayed out. So what's going on here? So what's happening is Tableau is trying to look for that borough field in my map, but it's not there. So it then can't find it, so it's not going to highlight any of the points. So how to fix this is to jump back into your sheet. You see your cities here. You want to then go and find, in this case, borough, and go and drag that onto detail. Okay, so we should see, yeah, these boroughs are now coming through in those tooltips. If I go back to my dashboard, I go back on this, yes, I can see these different boroughs coming through, being highlighted here. So under dashboard and action, we have a few other filters that we could use here. This one, go to URL. If I click this, what this will do is, depending on what sheet I've got open, it will go and open a web address, a URL, based on what value I've pressed. So for example, say you had some news articles you were reporting on, you could then go and use the URL and have that as an object. So when someone clicked that bar, they went and were taken to that news article as well. Okay, for example here, I can have this URL here. I can send people to Tableau Public depending on what bar they press in that borough. We're going to run this on a menu option so you can see what it looks like. So press OK, and if I click this, I then get this link here, hyperlink 1. If I click that, I will then, in a browser, be taken to Tableau Public. Okay, you saw that hyperlink there. If you go back to this sheet, onto tooltip. So in the tooltip, you'll see it's not there. It's sort of inserted at the end by Tableau. So the way you would customize this is back in your dashboard. If you go back to dashboard actions, you'd have to go and edit this name. Okay, so you can see that name changes come through for me there. But the nice thing about these is that you can then go and add in data from the actual dashboard itself in this. So you could then go and use this to say search for news articles about Brooklyn. Maybe you wanted to include rats as well. Or maybe instead of going just to Tableau Public, you can actually then go and search for visualizations about these different boroughs. So I go dashboard actions, edit this one. I'm going to change the URL. Instead of being the Discover page, it's going to be the Vises page, and then search my boroughs. Okay, so if I go onto my dashboard and then go and click for Bronx, go to Tableau Public, that will then give me some dashboards searching for Bronx here. Okay, of note, you also have options to go between different sheets. For extra navigation, you can also have parameter actions, so actions that are driven by a single value, a parameter, or set values, which is driven by a group of values. Okay, I've got my dashboard. I'm just going to tidy up this floating sheet here. I'm just going to get rid of that. I don't need that. I'm also going to move this one just a bit further there. There we go. Okay, I'm fairly happy with this. I want to go share this with members of my team, get some feedback on the work, go and see how they can take it further. So what I'm going to do, so if this was a personal project, I'd be going and putting it on Tableau Public. If I'm in a work situation like this, I want to go either put it on Tableau Cloud or Tableau Server. The way you would do this is under Server. You would have to sign into your server and you go and publish that workbook. Alternatively here, if you wanted to have a personal dashboard, you could go and save it to Tableau Public. If you are using Tableau Public here for this training, you will just have the option of save. We'll go and take it to your Tableau Public profile. Okay, so let's assume you don't have Tableau Public, you don't have Tableau Cloud, you don't have Tableau Server, but you want to share this with members of your organization. What you could do is save this as a Tableau file, like a TWX file, and then someone in your organization could read it if they have a Tableau license or if they have Tableau Reader installed. Tableau Reader is just like a read-only version where someone can install that on their desktop, and then go and see your dashboard as a file. Can go and open your dashboard file and take a look, interact with it as if they would if they were on Tableau Server or Tableau Cloud.
Thank you for watching this module. I've had a great time teaching you. In this module we've covered building dashboards in Tableau, exploring different dashboard layouts, adding interactivity to your dashboards. Well, I hope you're able to put what you've learnt here into practice soon. If you want to continue with our Tableau Data Skills training course, the next module 104, finding and using real-world data, You can jump straight in by clicking next video on the thumbnail on the right. And if you'd like us to help you and your team boost your data skills, please reach out to us at info@theinformationlab.co.uk. Lastly, hit subscribe to be notified when this channel releases new videos. I look forward to seeing you in our next session.